Okay, ready to be back. Hello, welcome back. Um, it's been a little while since we've been on the wartime podcast, and it feels good to be back. I have to admit. So it's supposed to be every day updates on what's happening and whatnot, but now every Sunday I'm going to sit down, whether it be right here or in a different location, and I'm going to talk about all the news that has happened throughout the week. It's easier for me, more consumable for you, and I think that works better overall. Alrighty, so just gotta get my things. Do. Alright, we are going to go through on the highlights, which we're going to start off over in Russia and Ukraine, the place that's always buzzing with new wartime propaganda from Putin and his yes men advisors. Alrighty. So, the very first article we're going to sit down and talk about is with its new pact with North Korea, Russia raises the stakes with the West over Ukraine. Okay. So I'm assuming what happened here was an arms deal was made between the two, and it's going to throw everything off. But North Korea weapons, 40% of the time, they don't work. Which, sure, there's a 60% of the time they do work, but still, they aren't technologically advanced enough to do proper damage. Alright, alrighty, so last week, Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, for all you that don't know, came through it in the spiraling confrontation with the U.S. and its allies over Ukraine and the Russian leader is willing to challenge Western interests like never before. The dictator envisions mutual military assistance between Moscow and I don't know how to pronounce the capital of North Korea, but I don't care. If either is attacked, Putin has also announced for the first time that Russia could provide weapons to the isolated country, a move that could destabilize the Korean Peninsula. Words I don't get. So, let's see, we have two dictatorships that are in power, right? Two very good dictatorships. Not good, but they're good at keeping their dictatorship status. So, two deranged people. And don't get me wrong, some things that Putin does really good, but other things that he does, no. Kim Jong-un is fat, has diabetes type 27, and will die very shortly. And while no North Koreans can watch this, so I'm not concerned about defending anyone. So you have a disabled, falling apart country, right? That's the word, which AKA is Russia, partnering up with a hermit kingdom that still has MiG-29s. Which, for those of you that do not know what a MiG-29 is, that's a Russian. I'll just pull up a MiG-29. Very simple. It's a Russian, right? Yes, it was, but designed by the Soviets in the 70s. And while it has a pretty impressive top speed of 1,520 miles per hour, we have something called the F-22 Raptor, which will shred through them. And South Korea has F-15s, which are flying tanks. But, well, that's besides the point. We're going to step away from Europe, and we are going to go towards China and Taiwan, so in the Asian area or Asia area. So I noticed something crazy. So we all know how Beijing has been having very close naval training practices and whatnot all around Taiwan. We all are high on our horses trying to make sure nothing happens. And if anything does happen, we're going to go there and defend them. Well, something that I did not know until today after thinking about it, I'm pretty sure Beijing is looking to see who wins the presidential election. Because let's face it, we all know it's going to be between Donald Trump and Joe Biden once again. While that might not be the best thing, there's no telling what the outcomes are. Because Sleepy Joe is very memeable with his ice cream loving, his jumbled speech, and his derailment of the country. Then you have Donald Trump, which is an orange with a very interesting point of view. While he did do some good things, he also would pull directly out of NATO. He would pull the U.S. out of NATO, which is the hugest thing that would disarray that alliance, because the U.S. is the global superpower. You take away the U.S. out of any alliance, you're done. The alliance will slowly crumble from there. And not to mention the UK is already falling apart left and right. So whichever one wins will determine what happens. Because if it's Trump, then, well, Beijing and the US will get along on a good agreement part. But if it's Sleepy Joe, attack. That's what my theory is, though. I'm not taking a political side, even though I really can't. I'm just not going to. But that is what my belief is. And while I might be wrong, sure, I can be wrong. But it makes so much sense. Because if they're taking all this time and making their military alliances with Russia, North Korea, I don't think they're doing anything with India, but they're building these alliances so they can go and attack, depending on who wins the presidency, though. And then that just might mean their attack plan is laid off for another 4 years. Alrighty, so over on apnews.com, Ukrainian drones and missiles kill 6 in Russia and Crimea. Fresh bombing in Kharkov leaves 1 dead. Well, I don't know what you expect from a missile. I don't know how that needs to bring headlines. Now, if it's civilian deaths, then well, that brings some obvious headlines that need to happen. But if there is not a bunch of civilian deaths that incur from here, and they're doing no mass genocide, I don't see the problem. But I guess, and that's all that's gonna get done. Alrighty. A U.S. supplied weapons show impact inside Russia. Ukrainian soldiers hope for deeper strikes. All right, so just judging by the title of this article, they're going to be talking about how precision strikes inside of Russia, targeting military depots, factories for manufacturing these things, which I don't know how they keep manufacturing these things with their destabilized economy, but somehow they keep on doing it. Alrighty. Weeks after the decision allowing Ukraine to use U.S.-supplied weapons for limited strikes in Russian territory, the country is having some success in halting Russia's new push along the northeast front, but military commanders are clamoring for restrictions on long-range missiles lifted because they don't want them to, for example, strike Moscow and destabilize Russia into another revolution of who's going to take power. which at that point it would be another Soviet Union fracture with so many different countries coming out of it. And sure, Russia would still be a thing, but it would be the very sliver and a very big shell of what it once was. But deteriorating battlefield conditions forced the U.S. to permit Ukraine to use Western supplies of artillery and rocket systems to defend the eastern city of Kharkiv, by targeting border regions where the Kremlin's forces assemble and launch attacks. The impact was swift. Ukrainian forces pushed the Russian position back one time to fortify their own positions and even mount a small offensive action. And, well, very good for the Ukrainians, but, well, that's not good for the Russians. And they keep on asking for our long-range missiles supplied by the U.S., but we won't give them to them because then they can make deeper strikes in and stabilize and provoke them even more. Which, while it's a very injured and drunken sleeping bear in Russia, it's still a sleeping bear that you don't want to mess with. And they keep on poking it, and they keep on making threats about nuclear weapons, but they won't do because, well, the good old US of A will probably retaliate with half their arsenal. It's just how it is, and I don't understand. Okay, so we are now going to dive into the key events for what's happened in the war so far. And so fighting. Ukraine's energy ministry has said that overnight Russian drones and missiles have attacked the country's energy transmission system in the southern and western Ukrainian region. 2 energy workers have been injured as a result of these attacks on... I'm not reading that. That's a word I will not sit here and try and pronounce. But, well, it's active war. I might storm. Now, I don't know what you expect. It's active war. Civilians are going to die no matter what. And, well, unfortunately, some civilians have died and they weren't involved whatsoever, except for their country supplying weapons. But remember when a Russian missile struck a Polish house and killed 2 people? That's where I'm thinking, well, they're just going to go and start war. Unfortunately, no. Now, this is very odd of me, but I deeply enjoy the thought of war. Maybe not so much the death and destruction and destabilizing the economy that goes along with it, but I enjoy, reading about it and experiencing. And by experiencing, I mean feeling like I'm there. Now, lash out for 5 years. Right? Yes. There's no way a war can lash out for 5 years or 4 years. Because I've not, that's a lie, but by then it's getting close to being over very quickly, so I don't see a point doing a war for that long. Ukraine has said it was dispatching reinforcements to embattled strategic hilltop town of Kashov Yar in the eastern Donetsk region, a vital flashpoint whose capture could accelerate Russian advances deeper into industrial territory. Now, obviously, farther parts of Ukraine have stabilized, and that's good. And they have stabilized because, well, there's been no fighting over there. Obviously, Kyiv is probably still underneath missile attacks. And not to mention, even when this war is over, the financial cost that is going to strike down on them for rebuilding purposes, and obviously we're going to go help instead of spend the money here, which I'm not saying we shouldn't go help them. What I am saying is we should help ourselves first, then others. There's so many things that could have been fixed with the amount of money we've sent to Ukraine. But, well, not everything is like that. Alrighty, next thing in the combat region, the Ukrainian military has launched a wave of drones that struck 3 oil refineries in southern Russia overnight, a security official said on Friday. Russian regional authorities in Krasnodar in the Krasnodar region said 4 people were injured, including oil refinery workers, as a result of drone strikes. Well, like I said previously on the Ukrainian side, it's active war. I don't know what you expect from this. It's just active war. These are things that will happen when an active war is going on. But, well, I guess this is not everything. So we're going on to politics and diplomacy. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has been criticized for telling the BBC in an interview that the European Union and NATO's eastward expansion provoked Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Well, that's false from what I've seen. We didn't begin having more people join in, if I'm pretty sure, until after Russia invaded. They invaded, bam, Finland joined, and Ukraine has gotten so much support, and they've been constantly asking for to join NATO, and they probably will after the war is over. But this wasn't something that we did. NATO hasn't done that. But what I could see happening is Putin being like Joseph Stalin and being paranoid of, oh, the West is going to go do this, or, oh, the West is going to go do that. And it's just the endless cycle that makes no sense. But, well, not everyone's completely sane. All right, Japan has unveiled trade restrictions against the firms in China, India, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan over their alleged support for Russia's war on Ukraine. Well, now we know China has support. We don't know about Kazakhstan, or at least I don't. Uzbekistan, I don't know about. In India, I could see them sending over some things and strengthening their alliance. But that's also a dumb move, because as we see, it has them being restricted. And I don't think that's a good thing for those countries' economies and whatnot. But anyway, the European Union has agreed to start membership negotiations with embattled Ukraine and Moldova next week. Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky called the talks a historic step. Well, yes, that's a very good historic step. Good job. You are going to be let into the biggest alliance that the world has ever seen. Moldova. Where is Moldova? I don't know where Moldova is. Google A. Where is Moldova?
Eastern Europe. According to Wikipedia, located in Eastern Europe, Moldova is bordered on the west and southwest by Romania and on the north, south, and east by Ukraine.
Okay, I see where it is now. Well, I see why they wanted to join. They saw the Russian invasion slipping on through, and if Ukraine is defeated somehow in some way, and I mean, if we withdraw our support, then Moldova would probably be next, or they would go and try and take the Baltic states, which would mean a immediate response of Article 5. But hey, I don't know. We're going to see how mentally insane Putin goes. Ukraine believes a second summit to consider its proposals for peace with Russia could be hosted by a country in the global south, a senior officer told the Interfax Ukraine news agency on Friday. Well, yes, peace negotiations, something you could have done how long's it gone now? 3 years ago, 1 year ago, 2 years ago. Like, sure, you don't want to give up your country's territory. I wouldn't either. But that's not something you want to do. But it's also sometimes has to be a necessary step in the country's survival. Like with Crimea, they invaded Crimea and they took a portion. Well, something that I do believe that shouldn't happen is they have to give up more. Obviously, the Crimean Peninsula back, and by all means, they should have it back. Like, they can march down there, take that, push out the Baltic Fleet, and they can go find docking somewhere else. But I don't know. But that is going to be it for today's news, or this week's news outlet. I hope you have enjoyed. Like and subscribe so you know exactly when this comes back out. Thank you all for watching. I hope you've had a good time. And I'll see you next time. But until then, bye-bye!